Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. The theme of today's video is a deep comparative review of 6 flagship smartphones at the end of 2024. We have conducted a detailed comparison in all aspects, including call quality, signal, audio, video performance, AI capabilities, and more. Let's take a look together to see which smartphone is the best one to use in 2024. All 6 phones in this comparison are retail versions that we purchased with our own funds. They are from brands including Honor, Xiaomi, Vivo, Oppo, All Pro versions, Huawei, Pro Home version, and iPhone, Pro Max version. As for the appearance of the phones, you can directly see them here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you can leave the number of the phone you like in the bullet chat or comment section. Let's take a look at what kind of design is preferred by more people. The first comparison is for signal and network speed testing. This is one of the most important indicators for phones we use today. The speed testing software we use is the Global Network Test developed by the China Academy of Information and Communications Technology. We will test the 5G network speed in 2 different environments, open outdoor space and a signal-weak underground garage. In order to minimize the impact of network fluctuations, we will take the average of 10 speed tests. Outdoor test results: the best performing phone is the Honor Magic 7 Pro, with an average download rate of 837 megabits per second. It was the only phone in this round of testing to reach over 900 Mbps at one point. The remaining 8 tests averaged above 800 megabits per second, with the lowest being 799 megabits per second. Overall, its performance was very stable. The second to 5th place phones are as follows: Xiaomi, 814 megabits per second, iPhone, 785 megabits per second, Oppo, 762 megabits per second, Huawei, 752 megabits per second. The Vivo X200 Pro showed more significant fluctuations in its 10 test results, with an average download rate of 672 megabits per second. You might have noticed that we highlighted the data for Huawei and iPhone in red with an asterisk. This is because we found that the Global Network Test software currently has a bug. For the other 4 phones, the data represents the average of the speed test process. However, the data for iPhone and Huawei is based on the peak value of the test. If the average were calculated, their speeds would likely be closer to Vivo's. We also tried testing with Kier Network Test and Speed Test. Even tested around 3 AM one day, but we always encountered difficult to quantify or abnormal fluctuations. In the end, we decided to use the data from Global Network Test and marked the data for iPhone and Huawei clearly, explaining the situation. Next, we moved to the underground garage, where the signal is weaker. Here, the phones mostly receive 4G signals. Since the network speed is limited at this point, Huawei and iPhone, which calculate peak values, rank first and second. Among the phones that calculate average values, Honor remained the fastest, with an average download rate of 61.28 megabits per second. Oppo, Vivo, and Xiaomi were nearly identical, all around 58 megabits per second. Of course, phones don't just need to handle internet browsing. We also tested call quality in a weak signal area, at the stairwell of the underground garage. The sound of the audiobook, The Supreme Dog, playing as part of the test, where Zhang Xiaoshui is transformed into a dog and gnawing on a bone. Now testing, the call didn't go through. You are unable to connect to the dialed user at the moment. Audio-visual testing segment. Let's first look at the screen. We used a brightness meter to test the phone's manual minimum brightness, manual maximum brightness, and the screen's peak brightness. iPhone's manual minimum brightness is 1.6 nits. The other 5 phones have minimum brightness between 2.5 to 2.8 nits. For the manual maximum brightness, we calculated the average brightness of 5 points, the center of the screen and the 4 corners. Xiaomi's normal mode has a brightness of 675 nits. After turning on the sunlight mode, the average brightness is 918 nits. For the other phones, only the iPhone's manual maximum brightness reached 901 nits. Huawei, Honor, Vivo, and Oppo are around 700 to 800 nits. We used a high-brightness photography light to test the global peak brightness of the phone screens. Vivo reached 1917 nits at its highest. Next is Oppo and Huawei, both with peak brightness around 1700 nits. Then, Honor's peak brightness is 1593 nits. Xiaomi and iPhone both are around 1100 nits. Of course, this isn't the limit for these phones. We continued with HDR video testing to evaluate the HDR peak brightness. Vivo's brightness is still the highest, exceeding 2000 nits. Xiaomi, Huawei, and Honor can also reach peak brightness of around 1600 nits in global mode. This still isn't the limit for these phones, but it can serve as a reference for the differences between them under a unified standard. For example, Oppo's screen can perform better. When playing HDR video and using high highlights, it can achieve higher brightness. When it comes to screen color temperature, theoretically, the closer the color temperature is to 6500K, the better. However, many people feel that a 6500K color temperature might look a bit yellow at first glance. So, many phones set the vivid mode color temperature between 700 to 7500K, making it appear whiter. This is all within a normal range. Honor's standard mode, Oppo's professional mode, are the closest to the 6500K color temperature. Next is Vivo's professional mode and